In the quiet desert town of Banning, California, families gathered every summer to honor loved ones. But in August of 2020, a birthday memorial at a small cemetery turned into a bloodbath. Gunfire echoed through the San Gorgiano Memorial Park. 3 people were dead, shot in the head at close range, and the killer fled into the night. That man was William Arnold Armendariz III, a young gang member who, over the course of less than 5 years, left behind a trail of 5 bodies in 3 separate attacks. Today, we're breaking down how a kid from a broken background turned into a cold-blooded killer and how his story became one of Riverside County's darkest sagas. The violence began almost 5 years before the cemetery massacre. It was just after midnight on November 7, 2015, when police in Banning responded to reports of gunfire on 5th Street. There they found 51-year-old Charles Neeser shot dead outside his home. The shooter, an 18-year-old named William Armendariz. To investigators, it seemed random, but in jailhouse conversation later overheard by an informant, Armendariz bragged that he thought Neeser was a rival gang member, a threat that never existed. It was paranoia, a warped sense of loyalty and violence that would only grow deadlier over time. 3 years later, on July 18th, the pattern returned. Gunfire rang out again in Banning, California, this time on Navajo Drive. A car full of young people was ambushed. 21-year-old Bradley Cunningham, riding in the passenger seat, was fatally shot. No arrests were made. Months turned into years. Desperate for answer, Bradley's mother, Michelle Cunningham, bought billboards around the Inland Empire begging anyone with information to come forward. It would only nearly take 2 years before investigators tied the shooting to William Armendariz and his crew. Then came the night that shocked the entire community. August 30th, 2020. Family members gathered at San Gorgiano Memorial Park in Banning to celebrate what should have been a peaceful memorial birthday for Evangelina Yisano. Among them was James Laura, a relative who'd spent time in jails years earlier. Unknown to many there, William Armendariz and his brother Christopher were also at that cemetery that night. The brothers believed Laura had been a jailhouse snitch, a deadly accusation in gang circles. Tensions flared. Words turned into shoving, and then a gun was pulled. According to investigators, William grabbed the weapon out of Christopher's hand and fired. He shot James Laura, 53, Teresa Sanchez, 42, and Felicia McCaffrey, 48, each in the head. 3 people dead within seconds. As chaos erupted in the cemetery, Armendariz fled. By the time police arrived, all 3 victims were dead and gone. The suspects fled the state, but it didn't take long for detectives to connect the dots. Cemetery killings, the drive-by on Navajo Drive, and the murder on 5th Street all led back to one William Arnold Armendariz III. He was just 22 years old, but he'd already claimed 5 lives. During the trial, defense attorney John Doe told jurors the fight with Laura created a domino effect. Honestly, he just snapped and made a horrible decision, but prosecutors disagreed. They said Armendariz wasn't a man who snapped. He was a man in control, a leader, a shooter, and a driving force behind one of the most ruthless murders in all of Riverside County. To understand how he got there, you have to go back to where it started. Family members called William Armendariz Billy. He grew up in Ohio. From age 2 to 12 in what his attorney described as a nice home, as a kid, Billy dreamed of being a firefighter or even a police officer. But around the age of 7, a cousin named Big Jerry moved nearby and everything changed. Big Jerry wasn't the best example, Dorr told jurors. Jerry liked to pretend he was a gangster. He watched violent movies, acted tough, and showed off to Billy, teaching him what it meant to be hard. When the family eventually moved to Cabazon, California, Billy found himself in a poor, overcrowded trailer park, 10 kids living in one small home. Before long, the streets had claimed him. He was clawed into gang life that he'd only once seen in movies. Prosecutors say Billy didn't just fall into gang life. He ran to it. With his wife Erica Lomas, who was part of a local Native American tribe, Billy had access to thousands of dollars in monthly casino profits. He used the money to fund gang activity, buying guns and drugs, earning status and climbing the ranks fast. He quickly became a high-ranking member in the East Side Banning 13 gang. By his early 20s, William Armendariz was known as a leader in the local crew. He had the tattoos, the charisma, the power, the looks, and all the fear that came with it. By 2024, prosecutors consolidated all 3 killings into one big massive case. 5 murders in total. Armendariz, now 28, pleaded guilty to all counts. During the penalty phase, jurors at the Riverside Hall of Justice debated whether he should face the death penalty or life in prison. Deputy District Attorney Christopher Cook didn't hold back. He told jurors the defense will tell you he's not a monster. Monsters are not evil. Evil is not real. He talks to people at night. He stalks these people at night. He stalks people in cars. He stalks people he knows. And the monster is sitting in this courtroom. But to his defense, they argue that William was a product of his environment, molded by poverty and bad influences and trauma. The attorney Dorr said, he took responsibility by pleading guilty. He spared the families the emotional burden of a trial. He does have good in him. He is somebody worth saving. William Armendariz will spend the rest of his life in state prison. No parole, no second chance. He was 18 when he killed his first victim, 20 when he killed his second, and 22 when he executed 3 more at a cemetery. The story of William Armendariz is one of wasted youth, a boy who once wanted to save people, but instead became the reason 5 families will never heal. Prosecutor Cook said, it's the defendant who was driving the train in every one of these murders. And his own attorney admitted, maybe we'll never know why any of this happened. Okay, one thing that I could take from this story and promise you is this, that as a young gang member, he felt a dedication to the streets and he got caught up. It's called the snowball effect. It's when one person wants to prove to others that he is the hardest in the hood. He will go all out. He will lose his moral compass. He will do anything for a blood drop of respect. With respect in the gang lifestyle comes a lot of madness. You are not told these things when you are young. You are not told these things, that you have to be a part of a group that is willing to take a life at the drop of a dime. Now, what it seems like William Armendariz was involved in was really the upper echelon of the gang. He seemed to have a distaste and a disdain for anyone he thought who was telling, who was a jailhouse snitch. And ultimately, the crazy part about this whole story is that he ended up ultimately admitting guilt to a cellie who was actually a confidential informant and jailhouse snitch who was put in the cell to question him on the cases. And he succumbed to the bullshit. Okay, this is an individual that was cunning and had a lot going on in his life in the early stages of his life. And somewhere along the line, he moved to California and truly found out, like others do all the time, how those California streets will suck you in to gang violence, especially in Southern California. Now, the East Side Banning 13 gang is very well known in Riverside County to be one of the most violent and vicious gangs out there. They have a notorious reputation. They are well respected within the CDCR system, the prison system. They are from Southern California and they choose to move as a unit. Every gang in Southern California and Northern California move different. There's different politics within the gang, different politics behind the gang. And William Armendariz definitely was involved in the politics. So now, in his young life, at 28 years of age, he will sit down with life without the possibility of parole behind them walls of the CDCR system. Is it going to change his mentality and his way of thinking? You can see an inkling of change with the way he admitted guilt in all 5 of these murders. Most people that are about the business, that are on a terror to commit 5 different murders on 3 different occasions, to shoot people in the head, to go state to state on the run, usually will take it all the way to trial, if not for the glory and for to be noticed in the respect that the gang gives you, but more so as a way to stay in the loop with the local street gang. Because most individuals know by the time that they start committing these murders how it's going to be in prison. The street gang is now separated from you. You no longer have them back in your play. You are no longer part of that. You may still, in theory, be a part of that gang in good standings, but that gang has no bearings on the results of your life and what's going to happen to you. You must now become a man. You must now join a group bigger than that of your gang. And how you act and how you respond to that level 4 yard that you are going to be placed on is going to lead to the results to determine what your life is going to be about. See, not everybody is cut from a cloth of evil. William Armendariz was definitely a young man that got caught up in the lifestyle. And because he felt the respect of the streets and the gangs meant more than anything else, he decided to go all out. Now, what it seems to me that Riverside County had the very big influence. We all know that Riverside County, San Bernardino County are two of the most dangerous counties in Southern California. Very notoriously known. I see it as a coincidence that this individual, William Armendariz, actually moved to the city of Cabazon, which has actually been in the news lately with the whole Haro murder investigation into the missing and disappearance of baby Emmanuel Haro. This goes to show me that this area, this central focus of this area, there's a lot of bad going on. One thing that I've noticed throughout life, where there's drugs, a tremendous amount of money, and a lot of gang violence, there's a lot of murder. 5 different people shot in the head. A mother pleading to the local authorities and to civilians to please help her find her son. 2 years, a cold case. I'm truly surprised that William Armendariz got away for so long. He was being funded by his girlfriend, his wife now, who actually has the same tattoo of a bee that William Armendariz has on the back of his head. Now, when I seen William Armendariz's pictures, he looks like a typical gang member from Southern California. Not that I judge people by their looks or there's a certain criterion to being a gang member, but he definitely has all the markings of an individual who was very dedicated to a gang. He has the letters E and S on the side of his cheeks, meaning East Side. He has a big B on the back of his head, allegedly meaning banning. And of course, he has the gang written all over and marked all over his body with an actual demon whispering into his ear. These are the markings of a killer. Someone who has dedicated his life to an entity bigger than himself. For William Armendariz, it was the gang. And because it started at such a young age, with his cousin Jerry being a heavy influence, this kid really had no opportunity or chance. If he would have stood in Ohio, he quite possibly could have been a police officer, which was his dream, or even a firefighter. But at the end of the day, whatever hardship got put on his family that had him living in a trailer in the middle of Cabazon, in the Inland Empire, that was a life-changing experience that somewhere in the near future, when he is tired of the gang lifestyle, when he is sitting in that cell, when he is an older gentleman with gray hairs on his chin, he will reflect back and think back to that exact point when your life turned. Everybody has that day of reflection, the day where you sit there by yourself, because you are by yourself, honestly, after committing so much murders and be given the LWAP. And you sit there and you look in the mirror and you realize this is all there is. Is this what my life's cracked up to be? Could I have meant much more to the community and to my family? William Armendariz will never experience family. He will never experience his wife's loving touch anymore. She also was arrested for assisting him in a murder. They had a situation going on in the city of Banning, allegedly, where because she was of Native American origin, she was receiving thousands of dollars a month from her family being involved with the casino, the Native American tribe money. And instead of using this money to build a home and a family and a better reputation in the community, they decided to funnel and fund drugs and gun running within their community, which was the gang of Eastside Banning. And that situation in itself just bred more violence Because when gang members have access to more guns, more money, and more drugs, then that means there's going to be more victims. William Armendariz was definitely a high-ranking member within his gang. Not because of his age, not because of his wisdom, his sklecha, or him having been in prison at all, but more so because of his money and his influence. Money is the root of all evil. I've seen individuals like William Armendariz go into the prison system, not gang members, not really involved in that lifestyle, but because they come from an influential family, a family with money, they are quickly brought into the fold, and their money is utilized to fund certain activities behind them walls. And they become people of a high-ranking nature just based upon their pockets. Some of them become heartless. Some of them not really knowing the meaning of what it takes to struggle and strive, and struggle through every element and phase of the California Youth Authority, the county jails, prisons. Somebody who just got caught up in a situation that was not that bad could find themselves, because of their money and because of the gang violence, caught up for the rest of their lives. And I've seen people become heartless, and definitely people become ruthless. William Armendariz, his path in life took him along a dark, desolate road. And there is no gold at the end of the rainbow. William Armendariz is doing life without the possibility of parole, and was very lucky that he was given this, because he was definitely facing the death penalty. But the judge and the jury showed leniency and felt in their hearts this young man still had an inkling in him that screamed he wanted out. Maybe it was the fact that he actually didn't put the family members through the trauma of the trial, and that he admitted guilt and pled guilty. Because again, this is not something typical in the gang lifestyle. Most people will take it to the box. It's more of a respect thing. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. But in this case, I believe William's good side came out, if you could say he had one. And he decided that he was no longer ese William Armendariz, but Billy, that kid from Ohio. It's crazy how life works out. It's crazy how people can be so judgmental of other people without knowing what they have been through. It seems that at a very young age, William was just very influenced by the gang situation. I remember myself being a past gang member, looking out of my window, seeing all the homies hanging out on the block, sitting on a fence, drinking beer, wearing gold jewelry, holding on to women. And I remember thinking, not that I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, but I wanted to be that homeboy in the middle with all the respect. Not the guys on the side, not the guys standing up in the back, but that one guy who was in the middle with the prettiest girl, with the brightest gold chain, with the pocket full of money, with all the respect. That's what I was striving for. At one point in my life, I thought I made it there, like I'm sure William Armendariz thought. But that was just an optical illusion. I was never him, because I was never me. See, the real me didn't want to be involved in that life. The other me did. So there was always a fight between good and evil. In this case, good prevailed, but it took a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time being away from my family and my children, and a lot of hardship to finally understand that everything I did in life was not worth it. Not at all. When it comes to William Armendariz, I only hope that the time he does, which is the rest of his life, can bring some closure to a hectic, unfortunate life. A very young man that still has a full life ahead of him of incarceration. If he continues to participate in gang violence behind them walls, he will become a victim. Maybe not a victim of death, maybe not a victim, but a victim of morality. A victim of someone who is a lost cause, who truly will be see the separation from the person they could be. It's just unfortunate that the youth are throwing their lives away over words, over clout, over respect that truly is never given. Just like everyone else that was hollering William Armendariz's name, whether it was in fear or respect for the way he was getting down, now nobody is talking about him in Riverside County. This was truly one of the darkest cases. 5 people murdered by one man. If you guys like these true crime stories, man, continue to follow me for this true crime. And let's try something different. I appreciate all the support. Thank you. This is Gunners Collective. Goodbye.